Hello everyone, and welcome to Behind the Bulletin. Today, we're diving into a story that has captured a lot of attention and sparked plenty of conversation. Byun Woo-seok has made a surprisingly honest confession while talking about Kim Hye-yoon's recent miracle, admitting that he felt jealous. But what did he really mean by that word? Was it rivalry, admiration, or something far deeper? Stay with us as we break down the full story, uncover the context behind his words, and explore the true meaning behind this unexpected confession. Let's get started right now. The moment the word jealous left Byun Woo-seok's lips, the room changed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. And yet, it landed heavier than any carefully scripted statement ever could. Up until that point, the atmosphere had been light. A casual interview. A few laughs. Safe questions about recent projects, upcoming plans, and the usual reflections on career growth that hinted at what was about to come. Then Kim Hye-yoon's name was mentioned, almost in passing, and suddenly, the rhythm shifted. Byun Woo-seok paused. Not the kind of pause meant to build suspense, but the kind that happens when a person realizes they're standing at the edge of honesty. His eyes moved, just slightly, as if weighing whether to continue. And then he did. I was jealous. In an industry where every word is measured, filtered, and often softened beyond recognition, the admission felt almost dangerous. Jealousy is not a word celebrities use lightly. It invites misunderstanding. It opens doors to speculation. And once spoken, it can never be taken back. Minutes, clips of that moment spread online. Headlines multiplied. Comments exploded. Some were surprised, others confused, a few quick to judge. But most people sensed that this was not the jealousy of resentment, it was something far more complex. To understand why those two words caused such a stir, one has to rewind. Kim Hye-yoon's recent miracle, as fans and media began calling it, did it happen overnight? It was the result of years spent moving between roles, slowly carving out space in an industry that rarely waits patiently for anyone. Then, suddenly, everything aligned. That resonated deeply. Performances that went viral. Emotional scenes that stayed with viewers long after the screen went dark. She didn't just succeed, she broke through. Was everywhere. Trending charts. Industry discussions. Award predictions. But what truly stood out wasn't the numbers or the headlines. It was the emotional weight her performances carried. People didn't just watch her, they felt her. Byun Woo-seok watched too. He watched as someone he knew, he respected, reached a moment many actors spend their entire careers chasing. And while the public saw celebration, experienced privately was far more layered. See, in this context, wasn't bitterness. It wasn't envy rooted in comparison. It was the sharp, quiet ache of recognition, the realization that he wanted that same moment of undeniable connection. That same sense of this is it. Realization hurt. He later explained that watching Kim Hye-yoon's success forced him to confront questions he had been avoiding. Was he pushing himself enough? Was he being brave enough in his choices? Was he waiting for opportunities instead of creating them? Jealousy became a mirror. The problem was that the public rarely allows male and female actors to share emotional honesty without framing it as rivalry. Almost immediately, narratives formed. Was there tension between them? Was he unhappy about her success? Did this signal competition? None of those questions reflected what actually happened. What truly shocked people wasn't the jealousy itself, it was the vulnerability. Byun Woo-seok wasn't admitting weakness, he was exposing ambition. The kind that keeps artists awake at night. Kind that whispers, you could be more. You could go further. The scenes, those close to him noticed changes. Became quieter. More focused. Scripts were read with a new intensity. Conversations about future roles grew sharper, more deliberate. It was as if Kim Hye-yoon's breakthrough had ignited something he could no longer ignore. Miracle didn't just belong to her. It became a catalyst for him. And yet, as the public debated the meaning of his words, something else was happening, something far more unsettling. The pressure mounted. Every follow-up interview demanded clarification. Every smile was analyzed. Every silence interpreted. The industry loves honesty, but only when it's comfortable. Byun Woo-seok had crossed an invisible line. And now, the question wasn't just what did he mean, it was what would he do next? Because once you admit jealousy, you can't return to pretending you're satisfied. The days that followed revealed just how fragile honesty can be in the spotlight. Byun Woo-seok's confession continued to echo, shaped and reframed with each retelling. Some called it refreshing. Others labeled it reckless. A few insisted it was strategic, a calculated attempt to stay relevant amid Kim Hye-yoon's rising wave of attention. But those who knew him best understood the truth was far less convenient. Jealousy didn't make him angry. It made him restless. He began questioning roles he might have accepted without hesitation before. He turned down scripts that felt safe, familiar, predictable. Kind that sustain a career but never redefine it. Didn't come without fear. In an industry where momentum is everything, stepping back can feel like self-sabotage. Yet something had changed. Watching Kim Hye-yoon seize her moment had stripped away excuses. There was no room left for maybe later or next time. Her miracle had made the cost of waiting painfully clear. Meanwhile, Kim Hye-yoon herself remained largely silent. No public response. No acknowledgement of the headlines. And that silence spoke volumes. It suggested confidence, not arrogance, but certainty. The kind that comes when you know your work can speak for itself. Outsiders later shared that when the two crossed paths again, there was no awkwardness, no tension, only mutual respect. Exchange of smiles. A quiet understanding that success doesn't diminish others, it challenges them. That moment never made it to news. What did make headlines were the changes in Byun Woo-seok's choices. A darker role. A riskier project. That demanded emotional exposure rather than polished charm. Audiences noticed. Critics noticed. And suddenly, conversations shifted. The jealousy that once sounded like a confession of weakness began to look like the start of transformation. This is the part of the story rarely told, that envy, when acknowledged instead of denied, can become fuel. That witnessing someone else's miracle doesn't have to break you, it can rebuild you. Byun Woo-seok never took back his words. He didn't soften them. He didn't apologize for feeling what he felt. That refusal to retreat might be the most shocking part of all. Because in an industry obsessed with perfection, he chose honesty. As for Kim Hye-yoon, her miracle continued, not as a fleeting moment, but as a foundation. And perhaps, without ever intending to, she became proof of something far more powerful, that success isn't contagious, but courage is. The real story was never about jealousy. It was about what happens after you admit it. Noise fades. When the headlines move on, what remains is a single question, one that Byun Woo-seok seems finally ready to answer with action rather than words. Will you do now that you know what you want? And that answer, still unfolding, turned out to be his own miracle. In the end, this story was never about rivalry or resentment. About honesty, the kind that makes people uncomfortable because it reveals ambition, doubt, and the quiet hunger to grow. Woo-seok's confession did not diminish Kim Hye-yoon's miracle, it illuminated it. Her success became a mirror, reflecting not competition, but possibility. What followed was not scandal. Transformation. Jealousy, once spoken aloud. Its power to shame and gained the power to motivate. And in an industry that often rewards silence and caution, choosing to be truthful became the boldest move of all. Sometimes, the most shocking stories aren't about what happens on stage or on screen. They're about what changes inside a person when they finally admit what they want. Thank you for staying with us until the very end and taking the time to explore this story in depth. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the moments behind the headlines, we invite you to keep following Behind the Bulletin for more stories that go beyond the surface. Your support, attention, curiosity mean more than you know. We look forward to sharing the next story with you.